Today, I wanted to cover three cases. I wanted to cover the Gwyneth Paltrow skiing trial that is happening in 2 days. I actually didn't even know about this trial until recently, and I did some research into it. And it's very interesting. I also wanted to give some updates on the Alec Baldwin case because Mr. Baldwin has, you know, received a couple of wins in the last couple of weeks. And I wanted to cover the Alec Murdaugh verdict. I know I'm late, but I feel like I really need to cover it to get some closure because the verdict in the case just really shook me to my bones. And I wanted to say hello to the replay crew. I know it's Sunday afternoon. It's really hard. It is a family day. I always tell my son who asks me, is it a school day or is it a family day? And I say, yes, Saturday and Sunday are family days. And so hi to everyone coming in. It's so nice to see you. I wanted to later on in the stream kind of give you guys an update as to what's happening with my channel. I have been, it's the last 5 weeks have been really, really tough. It actually reminded me of me taking the bar exam 17 years ago. It's been really hard. I've been trying to refigure my channel and figure out what I want to do. But watch out for my Lucasfilms video that's going to come out in a couple of days, whereby Catherine McCarthy, who is a producer on the show The Acolyte, is suing for wrongful termination because she turned down a competing offer from Apple TV in order to take this offer from Lucasfilms, and then they fired her 2 days later. And this is very interesting because typically we don't get to see lawsuits against big studios because most contracts that they enter into have an arbitration provision. But because here is the clincher, this case does not have a signed agreement between them. There was just a bunch of emails. So make sure to catch my video where I kind of break down as to whether an email can be a binding contract. And then I have that coming out, the Lucasfilms. I have also the $1 billion lawsuit against the financial YouTuber influencers. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but there's a case that was filed against Graham Stephan, Meet Kevin, BitBoy Crypto, in connection with their promotion of FTX. And so I just recorded that video. That's being edited. And I did a video on the Tiger Woods ex-girlfriend suing him for $30 million because he kicked her out of their house after they broke up. I also have a video about Priscilla Presley suing her granddaughter for control of Lisa Marie's trust. So those videos are going to be coming out in the next 2 weeks. Let's get straight into the case itself, right? I was really surprised to hear about this Gwyneth Paltrow lawsuit that's happening in Utah. It's actually starting on Tuesday, March 21st. It is a case by a retired doctor. His name is Terry Sanderson. And he claims that on February 26, 2016, you heard it right, it was 7 years ago, right? 7 years ago, he was skiing in Deer Valley, and he claims that he was downhill and he heard this loud screaming, and then he was basically knocked unconscious. He suffered brain injury, he suffered a concussion, 4 broken ribs, and other injuries. I mean, he states, I think, that he was knocked out for 5 to 6 minutes. He claims that Gwyneth Paltrow did not check on him after she ran into him. He claims that she just, skied away, and that her instructor, his name is Eric Christensen, came and screamed at him for being in her way. And no one sent help, no one at Deer Valley or none of the instructors sent help. And it's a very curious situation because At first, he sued Gwyneth Paltrow for 3.1 million because he made this claim that it was basically like a hit and run. The judge decided to dismiss that portion of his case, claiming, emotion, sorry, um, infliction of emotional distress, negligent infliction of emotional distress, because people shouted at him. People at Deer Valley actually falsely filed a report saying that he was at fault. So now the case is simply one of negligence. His claim is $300,000. And what's so interesting is Gwyneth Paltrow has countersued him. Do you guys want to guess how much she's countersuing him for? $1. That's right. Because I think for her, it's just a principle, right? A matter of principle. I think she is incredibly, upset, perhaps, right? Because most of the time, these cases settle, right? And I found out that the plaintiff tried to settle with her because at the end of the day, it's all about money, right? I mean, he claims he has all these injuries. He probably, hopefully, will have all the medical bills to substantiate his injuries. 300,000 does seem kind of low, though, for all these injuries that he's claiming that he has suffered. But that will all come out in trial. I think it's really interesting that she is countersuing him because basically, remember, when you settle, you are basically admitting guilt, right? Because you're saying, okay, I'm wrong and I'm going to give you a bunch of money. And Gwyneth Paltrow, her side of the story is she was the one that was downhill and Sanderson was the one uphill, because in Utah, right, this is the law, I guess, in when you're skiing is when you're downhill, you have the right of way, which makes sense, right? Because if you're downhill, you can't actually see behind you. So the person who's above you has the duty of care, right? And so she's claiming that she was actually the one who was downhill, that Sanderson crashed into her. She's saying that she suffered minor injuries. She basically just had to not ski for the rest of the day. So she's claiming $1, not because she wants to have any medical bills paid. She's not claiming any injuries. She's just saying, I was not wrong. And you have filed a frivolous, meritless lawsuit against me, and I'm going to take you to court, and we're going to, duke this out in court. I'm very interested to see if she's going to testify. In Utah, the jury consists of 8 people, so you only have to convince 8 people one way or the other. Now, let's talk about negligence a little bit, right? Because that's the only claim that Sanderson has left against Gwyneth Paltrow, is that she acted in a negligent way. And negligence, right, means that you have to have exercised reasonable or prudent care, and failure to do so caused an injury. So negligence has 4 elements, right? There's the legal duty, right, to ski carefully. There is then 2 is there's a breach or violation of that duty. 3 is plaintiff suffered an injury from that breach of duty. And 4, the breach of duty caused the injury, right? And because this is a civil case, you don't have to prove anything beyond a reasonable doubt like they do with criminal cases. You just have to prove that you were potentially your negligence was less than 50%, right? So because it's sort of like a car accident, right? If the jury finds that you're both equally negligent, then neither side will win any money. Now, I don't even think this is going to come down to negligence, like who was negligent, I mean, or how much they were negligent. I think once the witnesses testify, it should be very easy to determine who was downhill. Now, Gwyneth Paltrow has the instructors from Deer Valley supporting her, saying that she was the one that was downhill. Sanderson has, I believe, a friend who was skiing with them who states that Sanderson was the one who was downhill. So you do have a case of kind of he said, she said here. And I don't know if the fact that the ski resort instructors are saying that Gwyneth Paltrow was downhill holds more weight, because they're instructors, they're out in that environment all the time. They're more able, they're experts, right, of skiing, of the slopes. They are able to be aware of what's going on. Now, I think it's going to be interesting because she's a celebrity. Will Sanderson claim that Deer Valley and the resort are trying to protect her by saying, oh no, she was the one? That Alicia, that's a great point, right? Like a GoPro would be very beneficial. I understand there were a lot of people on the slopes that day. I think Gwyneth Paltrow had her kids with her, and that's Sanderson's claim, that she was distracted, right? Because I believe her kids were there and she was trying to watch out for her kids. So I am really interested in seeing what will happen. I think it's going to be 8 days. That's what is on the docket right now. This is supposed to be an 8-day jury trial. They'll probably have experts come on. I'm guessing that Gwyneth Paltrow is going to testify, because why else would she, go forward with this? I username, I can probably guarantee you Gwyneth Paltrow is not watching my live stream, but that's a great manifestation goal to have one day, right? So that's kind of, the Gwyneth Paltrow case. I don't know. I mean, do you guys, this is not going to be like a Depp v. Heard situation, but it is interesting, right? That more and more celebrities are not settling, right? Because I'm surprised that the Alec Baldwin case is going forward. I mean, why hasn't he taken a plea bargain? Why hasn't he? But you know why? I know why. Because he has said, right, I'm not at fault. I mean, he has gone on interviews and said, I feel no guilt, which I really do believe. That's just such a bad soundbite to have in there when he was interviewing with ABC, because he was asked, like, do you feel guilty? And he says, no, I don't feel guilty. I mean, how could you not feel guilty? I'm sorry. Like, it was just terrible to say that. And this is why you don't talk to the press or to the police when you have an ongoing investigation against you, right? So let's move on to the Alec Baldwin case, because I wanted to talk about some of the updates there. Mr. Baldwin has, as I said, some really, really excellent litigation attorneys from Quinn Emanuel. They are, I would call them the best, some of the best, probably the best trial litigators in the country. That's who celebrities go to when they need great litigators. If you look at some of these CVs of his attorneys, I mean, they're all like Harvard Law, and they all have worked in the government, Department of Justice, and so on and so forth. So they have won Mr. Baldwin a couple of points. So remember the firearm enhancement that was levied against him originally? So he's been charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. And those were, carry a prison sentence of 18 months. And the DA of Santa Fe added the firearm enhancement, which would have added 5 years to that. So he was looking at almost 6.5 years in prison, which is, a lot. And I think most people would be really freaked out by that, because 18 months, I mean, if he even, let's assume he is found guilty. the trial goes forward, right? Because there's a big question mark about that right now, whether or not the trial will go forward. He is found guilty, 18 months. It could be possible that they plea it down a little bit, or he spends 6 months in jail, right? Probation. I don't know. I think 18 months is a lot more palatable than 6.5 years. So the five, so Baldwin's attorneys found that the statute that was in place at the time of the fatal shooting of Helena Hutchins was a statute that did not have the 5-year sentencing enhancement. That statute was actually added 7 months later after the shooting, and I would bet that went through, probably because of her shooting, right? They probably thought, well, if there are going to be firearm accidents or incidents, then we should have this 5-year sentencing enhancement. I think they were very smart to have figured out that the statute in place at the time actually also has this element of intent, right? You have to show some element of intent, which clearly, I don't think anyone is arguing that Alec Baldwin intentionally shot her. I think everyone agrees this was a terrible accident, but as the DA of Santa Fe has said, just because something is an accident doesn't mean that it's not criminal, right? And I think that's why she brought forth these charges against Alec Baldwin and Hannah Gutierrez Reed. So that firearm enhancement was dropped. And then remember, Baldwin's attorneys they filed a motion to get the special prosecutor, Andrea Reeb, to step down because there was a conflict of interest in that she was because she was elected in November, right, as a representative of the House, and for her to be part of two branches of the government is a conflict of interest. And so on March 24th, the judge was going to have a hearing trying to figure out and determine whether or not there was a real conflict or not. And on March 14th, just a few days ago, she resigned, right? She said, just, to make this easy and not to have any conflict of interest or bog down the case, I'm just going to resign. So these are two very big wins for Alec Baldwin. I mean, I think it puts the DA's office sort of in retreat because their case is a little weaker now, perhaps. I mean, look, I think the special prosecutor situation was a little bit. I don't think it spoke to the case itself. I think this was just a scheduling issue. I think this was in a situation where she got elected, and when she was assigned to the case, last year, she was not part of the House, and so I don't know. But if you read the news, it says that, oh, it looks like the DA's office is in retreat and they're potentially not going to be able, maybe they're heading towards, getting this trial dismissed. Darlena, that's some good lawyering. Quinn Emanuel is an amazing, amazing litigation firm. And that's who the celebrities go to. So what's next for Alec Baldwin? Next is on May 3rd, there's going to be a 2-week prelim hearing. It's usually a day, but it's going to be 2 weeks where they're calling it a mini trial now. And the DA is, I think the last I heard, she's going to have like 48 witnesses testify as to why this trial should go forward. And the case and the judge in that case, her name is Judge Summer, will have to determine, is there enough to go for a full trial? If I had to guess, I would say probably, I think there are enough facts here to go forward for a trial. Now, oh, I forgot to mention the other kind of win for Alec Baldwin's team is the fact that the firearm that was that Baldwin used to shoot, not intentionally, but the one that was used in the shooting and the killing of Helena Hutchins, his they're calling it's been destroyed, but I mean that would seem to imply that the state has destroyed a firearm so that it can't be um, tested or examined by an expert. But I don't think that's what happened. I think this is an old gun, is a Colt 45, and what happened was during the testing by the FBI Quantico labs, it kind of I don't know, fell apart. I mean, it's just like in the testing, it kind of was damaged. It can still be examined, but it just doesn't fire anymore. So they can't perform, Baldwin's team and his experts can't perform tests on it anymore in the same way. Oh, here, Darlena, you have a great question. You said charging someone isn't enough for a trial. No, I mean, that's why you have motion to dismiss, right? So, and this is a good thing, right? Because you can't just go around suing everybody, right? I mean, you have to show, remember in the Kohlberger case and in the Alec Baldwin case, they just have to show enough facts to show that the defendant is probably at fault. At the prelim hearing, the defendant's attorneys get to defend themselves, right? And show facts to show that, no, you actually have no case. You have no, we don't have enough evidence to go forward as for trial. And sometimes a judge will dismiss at that stage and grant a motion to dismiss. So just because someone was charged doesn't necessarily always, I mean, I think when it's a criminal case and the DA has filed, usually they feel pretty strong. They feel like they have a pretty strong case before they file a case to go forward. I think a motion to dismiss is less common. It's granted less often in a criminal case than in a civil case, because you realize for civil cases, anybody can sue anybody, right? I mean, we are in America, the land of the happy trigger suing. We're a very litigious country. I mean, probably one of the most in the entire world, and people sue for anything. And one might argue that the Gwyneth Paltrow case, is maybe meritless, but we'll see. I'm kind of interested in seeing what happens there. So, going back to Alec Baldwin, the biggest update is the fact that on April 20th, the production of Rust is supposed to resume in Montana. I'm just like, every time I hear an inkling that it's going to resume, it blows my mind, because I'm thinking, really? Like, it just seems in such bad taste, because someone died on this production and they're still so adamant about going forward and finishing this production. Apparently they've added a role for a little boy who is deaf. And the new addition is someone by the name of a famous producer by the name of Grant Hill, who was at the helm of Titanic. He was a producer on Jupiter Ascending and also on Terrence Malick's Tree of Life. So I think he has a lot of experience helming difficult productions. I think that it was probably smart of them to bring in a seasoned producer, because I think what we all know from this case is this was a production that was very poorly run. I mean, as a Hollywood attorney, I hate, speaking poorly of another production, or it's just but there were so many complaints of safety violations, of firearms going off, of the crew or cast taking, guns out for shooting practice during lunch. There was evidence of live ammunition that the production knew about and did nothing, right? They weren't paying their camera crew. They housed everybody an hour away. I mean, it's just it was not a production that was either well run and not very maybe thoughtful of its production. I'm sure it's gonna change. I mean, I don't know if I would watch this movie. I just, do not, I agree with you, Dragon Man. I just can't watch it. Now remember, Helena Hutchins's husband has been given an EP credit, and supposedly he's going to be part of the production, and he agreed to be a part of it to see the movie through, perhaps to honor her memory. But what's really interesting is when the charges were filed against Alec Baldwin and Gutierrez Reed, his side, right, like Matthew Hutchins released a statement saying that they were glad to see these charges. And this is in light of the settlement, of the civil settlement that he received. And I'm guessing it was not disclosed, but I'm guessing it's probably in the millions of dollars, from both the production and the other producers and Alec Baldwin. So I'm really surprised that, I don't know, maybe they think money is not sufficient for her killing, and I would tend to agree with that. So I wanted to ask you all if you're interested in me talking about the Alec Murdaugh verdict at all, because I mean, we're a couple of weeks from the verdict. I wanted to cover it, but my work was so crazy. My work really picked up in the 6 weeks that the trial was going on. So I didn't really have a chance to cover it. And there was a part of me that was just almost really reluctant to cover it because it's such an awful, awful case. So maybe you guys can let me know if you're interested in me talking about it, because part of me wants to talk about it just so I can get some closure in my own mind, because it's just so awful. Okay, great. Hold on one second. So for those of you who didn't know, there was a trial against an attorney in South Carolina by the name of Alec Murdaugh. And he was a prominent attorney who came from a family of attorneys, right? Like they basically had the legal dynasty of that whole area of, I believe it's Colton County. His, I think, great grandfather and grandfather and father, they were all very big and powerful lawyers in that county, in the city. And oh my God, shoot. Oh my goodness. Am I still on? Hold on one second. Oh my gosh. Hold on. Okay, my circuit breaker just like jumped. Shoot. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. Like my power strip just like jumped. I think because I had my heater on. Can you guys still hear and see me? I just had to turn it back on. Okay. So Alec Murdaugh, on June 7th of actually, I'm not quite sure on the date right now, but I believe it was June 7th, 2019, found his wife and son um, with like just brutally murdered at their hunting estate called Moselle. And he, calls the police, and there are all these videos of him being interviewed by the police. Basically, there was a 6-week trial, and this was the most protracted and dramatic trial I have ever watched. And the jury came back and in less than 3 hours found him guilty of killing his wife, of killing his son, and of the firearm charges. So 4 counts. The judge gave him 2 life sentences, right? And what was really interesting about this case was Alec Murdaugh testified, right? And I have said this time and time again, right? Like with Alec Baldwin, you do not, you need to assert your Fifth Amendment right now, not to self-incriminate. You need to not testify. And there was this like Twilight Zone moment where O.J. Simpson, before it went to the jury, came in and said, "Oh, yeah, I think that he probably won't be found guilty." But this was before he testified. Remember, O.J. Simpson did not testify. So the jury came back and said, this is after the fact, right? After they did the verdict, they found that him testifying really hurt him. And what was so crazy about this case was the reason why the jury found Alec Murdaugh guilty of killing his son, killing his wife, was this video, right? That was recorded by his son, Paul, minutes before the murder was supposed to happen. So Paul was down at the dog kennels looking after a friend's dog who was sick, not feeling well. I believe the dog's name is Cash. And so there was really poor reception down at the kennels. So while he was talking to his friend, he lost service, and he decided to take a picture of the dog instead. And while he's taking a video of the dog, and while he's taking a video of the dog, you can hear in the background his mom and the voice of a man, right? And the man is saying, "Come here, Bubba, come here, Bubba," because apparently the other sorry, I lost my train of thought. Because apparently Bubba, who is their dog, had caught a chicken and had a chicken in his mouth. And so they were trying to chase him down and get this chicken away from him. And so people who heard, and this video was a Snapchat video, and it was not part of the discovery, because I think Snapchat didn't release this because it was uploaded into the Snapchat cloud, but it was not on Paul's phone, or there was some situation where this piece of evidence wasn't available to them. And so Alec Murdaugh had said time and time again with so many police interviews that he was not down at the kennels, right? The story was after dinner, after he called his wife back from their beach house because she wasn't staying there at the time. And, she didn't want to come back, but her sister convinced her to. And her sister, so heartbreaking, is so torn up about it because she was the one that convinced her to come back, right? Because she believes if she didn't convince her to come back, then she wouldn't have. And so the story is they had dinner around, I think, 7:30. And then Paul and Maggie went down to the kennels, maybe around 8:30. And Alec Murdaugh said that he was never down at the kennels. But this video with this man's voice in the background shows that Alec Baldwin was there, because so they had several witnesses they asked the witnesses, whose voice is that? And people who know Alec Baldwin well, because these are like Paul's friends who grew up around Alec Baldwin, said, oh yeah, that's for sure Alec Baldwin. I'm sorry, Alec Murdaugh. I'm getting the two Alex mixed up in my head. So it's wild to me that Paul basically came, the phrase is that he came back from the grave to testify, because he took this video and it shows that his dad was there minutes before, right? Because there was no way that he could have been able to, let's say, okay, so Alec Murdaugh said he was there, right? He got the chicken out of Bubba's mouth and then went immediately back to the house. But would he have been able to leave the kennels get the chicken from Bubba, put Bubba back into the kennel, run back to the house and not hear anybody drive up or kill his wife and son? I mean, this is a huge estate but it's big and flat and you can see cars drive up. Even if, let's say the story is that they killed their lights or that they came on foot, right? These two killers, because that's the defense. That was the defensive story. The dogs would have gone crazy if there was actually someone else on the property. So I didn't want to believe Alec could kill his wife and son. I actually thought that, it was going to be a hung jury. But I think once he testified, the jury said they heard his voice, so they were sure that that was him on the video. And secondly, he just lied time after time, and his emotions on the stand just weren't very genuine. I mean, he really wasn't crying. I mean, one of the juries said he was just basically blowing snot, like he really wasn't crying. He was turning it on and off. And I think all of us want to understand why, right? Like, why and how could a father kill his own son? I mean, he like blew his brains out, and he like chased and tortured Maggie. I mean, she was shot 5 times, and it was because this case has gotten so much attention. There are a lot of different like artists and people who do kind of like stop motion, and they've done these models of how they think the murders happen. And he was basically chasing Maggie down, and she was running towards her baby, right, running towards Paul, and she was shot. And then when she was down, this is why Crane Waters, like the prosecutor there's one day during the trial he was like laying on the ground of the courtroom, and I was just like, what is happening right now? But he was trying to show that Maggie was bent over on the ground, and her killer, who we have to say is Alec Murdaugh, because that's how the jury found, shot her in execution style. I mean, this is just like, I cannot wrap my head around it. Yes, I do agree with you, Dragon Man. I mean, this is I think a 2,000 acre estate. It's very rural. It's very quiet. There are no lights, no sounds. Like, how could he not have heard 7 gunshots, right? 7 shotgun shots. And so I have been really thinking about like why, right? Like what was his motive? Because I think the means and the opportunity are really there. I think the motive was the part that was a little harder to explain, because the state's case was that Alec Murdaugh was, by the way, he has 99 financial crimes against him that still have to be prosecuted. Now, a lot of us are wondering, well, is that case actually going to go forward? Because he's already been found guilty. He's serving 2 life sentences. Is there any point to basically prosecute and spend, the state's money, taxpayers' money? But I would say the prosecutor, Creighton Waters, is probably going to go forward because I think this is in the name of justice. I think it gives all of his victims some closure. Because for those of you who don't know, Alec Murdaugh stole millions and millions of dollars from his clients, sort of in the same way that Tom Girardi did. And when I talk about these two attorneys, it really makes me so ashamed for them and as an attorney, because when I was sworn in as an attorney, I took an oath to help those who are powerless and voiceless. And to see these two ex-attorneys, right, because they've both been disbarred, stealing monies from their clients. I mean, Alec Murdaugh it's been alleged that he stole his housekeeper's life insurance policy after she died very mysteriously, by the way, at their house. He told her kids to file the life insurance, and I think it was $4 million, and the kids have never seen a dollar of that. And he claims that because of his opiate addiction, that's why, he was popping like 30, 40, 50 pills a day, and he had to feed his drug addiction, right? That's why he stole the millions and millions of dollars. So on the day of the murder, his law firm, the CFO of his law firm, confronted him and said, we know that you've been taking money from these settlements from our clients. And so I think and that's the state's case, right? Is that because the walls were closing in on him, there was also the boat case, right? And this was kind of everything started to unravel with the boat case. Paul had been driving a boat the previous year, and he hit a bridge, and everybody was thrown into the water, and there was this girl, Mallory Beach, who was killed. And it was clear that Paul had been drinking. He was underage. He used his brother Buster's ID to buy alcohol. And there is evidence that Alec Murdaugh went to the hospital that night and was like trying to tell everybody, don't say anything, don't say anything. And I found out that, there are so many like dead people around the Murdaughs. It's just crazy. I haven't actually watched the Netflix series yet because I haven't had time, but I'm interested if anybody, who has watched it, what you guys think, really happened. But basically, Mallory Beach was the only eyewitness of the housekeeper's falling. And when I heard that she fell from the stairs, I assumed it was like, from inside the house, like, a very long flight of stairs. But in doing my research, I found out it was like the outside stairs. Like there were only like 3 steps. So I don't know how she fell 3 steps and died. So it's all very mysterious. And then there is another death of a boy who is there's an allegation that he was actually Buster's lover, and somebody killed him to basically stop that relationship from going on. There's just so much tragedy, so many mysterious deaths surrounding the Murdaughs. And a lot of people have said, and the judge specifically at the sentencing said, your family, because they served as volunteer prosecutors, have handed down judgments and controlled this county for over 100 years. Alec's grandfather's portrait was hanging in the courtroom before the trial started. They actually had to remove the portrait because they thought it wasn't appropriate for his grandfather's portrait to be hanging in the courtroom to potentially persuade or make the jury uncomfortable. So they took the portrait down. The judge said, your grandfather or great-grandfather, your family has handed down death sentences for for guilty verdicts that are even less serious than your murder um, verdict, right? And interestingly, the state did not ask for the death penalty here. South Carolina actually is a death penalty state. So that is sort of that's my Alec Murdaugh. I just, wanted to talk about. It's very curious why that happened, and it's hard for my brain to even wrap around that. I wanted to talk very quickly about my channel and what I I've had to basically eat some humble pie because I thought I was going to hit 20,000 a few weeks ago, and I've been stuck. And I think, having a YouTube channel is so difficult because you never really know like what's going to hit and what's not going to hit. And I have basically had to, oh shoot, my camera's about to die. that's this is just me having technical difficulties all night. If my camera dies, I apologize, but it looks like it's about to die. So I just wanted to say that I have had to adjust my brain a little bit and be less hard on myself because I keep thinking that I suck and that I basically am doing this wrong and why is my channel not growing. But I have a lot of good friends like the Keto Twins who are here reminding me that I am very close to 20,000. I really got my first big video, my third video in October. So it hasn't been that long. I just need to remind myself why I love doing this, right? I get to be a storyteller. I get to be creative again after kind of giving up that dream 17 years ago. So I tried doing, I got the story in my head that I needed to do long videos that were like 20, 30 minutes long. I needed to do, research on it. I needed to make it really deep. But I think because I focus on breaking stories, I just need to make them fast and relevant and valuable and give you all the kind of the legal breakdowns like I did in my Try Guys videos that really seem to connect with people. I need to remember my love of supporting and giving a voice to those who are voiceless and powerless, and really, remembering why I love being an attorney, why I love having this YouTube channel. And I so appreciate all of your support, seeing your comments. I read every single comment, and it means so much to me. Celestial Being like said today that my videos like, or my Amaranth video has inspired her to go back and potentially do some pro bono volunteer work. And she has goats who apparently love hearing from me, which I find is so cute and endearing. So I'm going to try to maybe do more. I'm going to go back to 2 videos, fast and short. I'm going to try to do more lives because, it is, I love having the interactions with you. I love kind of being less edited and you can you can tell why my editors have such a hard time editing me and why I'm so choppy, because I'm always kind of thinking about what I say. I don't use a teleprompter. I don't script. I did do my FTX one, which was scripted, and I don't know. It felt unnatural to me. So this is how I normally speak, and this is why my editing kind of is kind of choppy. I think I'm getting better, but this is just practice. I think I just uploaded my 33rd long video, and let's see where we are when I hit 100 videos. I so appreciate all of you. Dragon Man, thank you so much for your support. Sarah and Emily, I love you guys. Thank you. If you guys can subscribe and like my videos. That would be so helpful. I'm literally 25 away from 20,000. But every time I put up a new video, I'll gain some subscribers and lose some subscribers. So it's just like in my brain, I'm trying to not focus on the numbers, but I am very kind of type A perfectionist, so it's hard for me to let that go. But I am going to go make dinner for my kids, and I hope you guys have such a fabulous weekend. And I will try to have another live maybe Wednesday night. I'm kind of gonna aim for like Wednesday night, Wednesday night, Sunday afternoons. And I will see you guys soon. This is Tyler, the Hollywood attorney. Remember, we were born perfect and we forget. And I love to tell my kids that when they're going to bed, right? That you were born worthy and safe and perfect. And we don't need to change anything. We just sort of forget. We just need to come back to ourselves and remember that. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon. Okay, bye.